Reality is about to bend in ways you've never expected. The upcoming new moon in Pisces on February 27th isn't just another lunar cycle. It's a pre-eclipse activation, a portal into the surreal where lines between dreams, illusions, and destiny blur beyond recognition. The energy is murky, nebulous, and karmic, a veil dropping between worlds, distorting reality like we're all wearing a VR headset we can't take off. Confusion, synchronicities, and eerie deja vu will be everywhere. And if you're already feeling lost in the fog, not to worry, I'm here to guide you through it. In this video, we'll decode the hidden lessons, fading encounters, and altered states of consciousness as this new moon ushers us into the first eclipse season of 2025, including a forecast for all 12 signs, so you can navigate it with clarity, purpose, and power. But before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss an important astrology update. I upload new videos usually every single Saturday at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, but today I'm uploading off of my schedule because there's just so much going on in the astrology. And on Saturday, I covered the Venus retrograde. If you missed that video, go back and watch it after this because that's going to give you a deep dive into everything that we're going to be experiencing in our relationships, our finances, and beyond over these next 6 weeks because Venus during this lunar cycle is about to be stationing to go retrograde on March 1st. And speaking of relationships, my Relationships and Synastry mini course is now open for early bird enrollment. This is not just a course about love and romance. This is a course that will help you navigate and understand all of your most important relationships. We're going to cover not just romantic partnerships, not just marriage, not just love affairs, not just flings, but we're going to be covering your relationships with your children, with your parents, with your siblings, with your family members. We're going to be covering relationships with your friends, with your community. We're going to be covering relationships with your coworkers or with your employees and bosses. We're covering everything you need to know to understand relationships in the birth chart. And we're even going to dive into Synastry, which is basically a reflection on how two people interact and interrelate with one another. And so this is going to be super juicy, and you can join now for 50% off before the first lessons are released on March 19th. And the link is down in the description below. This is a huge value, you guys. So take advantage because we will absolutely not be releasing this at this price ever again. All right, so let's dive back into it, the new moon in Pisces. And so I'm going to pull it up on my screen so you can see it because you really need the visual here for this like intensity of this stellium in the sign of Pisces, this pileup of planets in this nebulous, murky energy. And what a pileup of planets it is. Not only do we have the new moon here, but this new moon is in a wide conjunction with Saturn, which is the planet of rules, restrictions, regulations, hardships, challenges, burdens, responsibilities, karma. And that is in a conjunction with Mercury, which is the planet of our mind and our mental state, which is not necessarily in a good position in Pisces. Mercury is the ruler of Virgo and it's exalted in the sign of Virgo, which means it's at its fall in Pisces. This is where our mind becomes way less rational, way less logical, and way more impressionistic. And all of these planets in Pisces are going to become much more impressionistic, much less linear, much less tangible, much less logical. And not only does Mercury not like to be in that state, in this like liminal state of like, where am I? What's up? What's down? What's actually going on? I'm feeling more than I'm thinking. I can't really put words to what it is that I'm experiencing here. I have this abstract concept, but how do I actually turn it into something? And then we have Saturn, which is very like by the book, by the rules, like very much a tangible planet that likes things to be a very precise certain way. And in the sign of Pisces, which is where it's been for a couple of years now almost, this is not its favorite placement. This is a very unstructured, very blurry place for the boundaries that are laid out by Saturn, where boundaries are dissolved, where things become boundaryless. And sometimes on the flip side, things that maybe should not have so many boundaries are given boundaries, are given shape, are given form. And so basically what's going on here is this combination of energies is weakened. However, with Mercury and with Saturn being this placement, this is a time where we can take our visions, our fantasies, our dreams, our imagination, and create and formulate plots and plans that will allow us to slowly and meticulously put in the work to translate that into something real. And so that is one of the things you can do with this energy. However, it's not going to be easy to do it. It's a very hard thing to get a firm grasp on what's real and what's just not realistic at all with all of this Piscean energy. Also, we have the North Node here. And so part of this stellium, part of this pileup is the North Node and the sign of Neptune, which is one of the murkier planets as well. It's tied in modern astrology to the sign of Pisces because it is so boundaryless, because it is so watery, because it is so otherworldly. And this combination is just super, super bizarre. This is like a little bit of a taste of what's to come throughout the months of March and April as we get into the eclipse season. And this is actually the new moon, the lunation, that will usher us in officially to the eclipse season, because the full moon in this lunar cycle will be an eclipse. It's going to be a full moon eclipse. And so really what this is a new moon that's going to feel a little bit eclipsy. It's going to feel like there is something very unusual, something very etheric, something very intangible that's going on beyond the veil, that's helping to guide our hand, guide our intentions, that's helping to seed whatever it is that's going to be manifesting throughout this next month, throughout the eclipse season. And there are going to be some very strange coincidences, some very strange signs, synchronicities, messages coming through with that mercurial energy, coming through the ethers almost, where all of a sudden it's in your brain and you can't shake it, where all of a sudden that thing that person said has this uncanny ability to get stuck in your brain and seed something that is going to lead you on a new path moving forward. This is a very unusual energy. Also, this is going to be a time where I think in the collective, we're going to see some very high strangeness. Like this is like an alien energy. This is like a psychic energy. This is an energy where we're getting in touch with things that we didn't realize could be actually connected to our reality. It's almost taking those things that are very intangible, that are laughed off as being, pseudoscience, or laughed off as being like ridiculous in some way, and making them more solid, more concrete. And so if you are somebody who's very intuitive, very psychic, who works with other dimensional or extra dimensional energies, this is a time where you could seed intentions to make your work, I wouldn't say more real because it's already real, but take it and turn it into something that even the normies can't deny, that even the normies will understand, right? Because you're turning it into something more logical, more tangible. There's like a way to explain this that could come out of this situation that it changes the way it's perceived by other people. And this is also just a very fated, very karmic, very synchronistic energy. So a lot of what's going to be happening right now is going to be throwing us in a brand new path. This is like the first major activation period of the north and south nodes on the Pisces Virgo axis. And so this is a major activation of the North Node in Pisces. This is a major activation of the new direction that we are moving into and that we've been like launched into since January of this year, except we're going in full force now. Now it's eclipse season. Now it's going to turn into something. So we've been getting hints and little signs about what direction we're going to be heading into for the next 18 months while the nodes are transiting these signs. This is where we're going to be going all in. The messages are going to be loud and clear. The direction that we need to start shaping our path into is going to become very apparent. However, the road to get there is going to be so foggy. It's kind of like we need to go in this direction, but like what the hell is going on? This is so weird. Like everything that's going on is nonsensical. It's very hard to see things clearly. It's very hard to see certain people and certain situations clearly under this energy. And so our discernment is offline, but there is still this like intensity around like needing to move forward in a certain direction. So it's like innately, you know that you just have to do this thing. You just have to go with the flow. You just have to follow where you're being led. However, it's not an easy path to take because there's going to be like a lot of fear. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty. There's going to be a lot of challenge to actually figuring out how to get there, how to take this step to that step to that step. Because again, the path is not clear. The path is murky. So it's kind of like taking that big vision that you have and that you're feeling and that you're being led toward around the time of this new moon and like looking at the destination and not understanding the path at all. Like, I know that this is where I need to go, but like how I'm going to get there, hell if I know. And if you think you know, it's not going to be correct. There's going to be some semblance of you being like delusional or being misled or misguided in some way. And so it's an interesting energy for sure. What we're going to get out of this new moon is what we need to get out of this new moon. And there are a couple of things here that kind of help us along the way. The first one being the Jupiter square to the new moon. So Jupiter is going to be at 12 degrees in the sign of Gemini. And that does provide a certain level of perspective and discernment and also protection against like the worst case scenario with the Saturn energy, with the nodes energy, with the karmic energy. There could be a lot of fear, but that fear is going to be unwarranted because we do have like this saving grace, this like level of protection, not the strongest protection because Jupiter is at its detriment, but still it's like protecting against the worst case outcome, the worst case scenario, like the really bad stuff. So we do have that going on here. And then also Mars is newly direct in the sign of Cancer, barely moving because it moved direct like 3 days prior to this new moon. But it's in a trine with this stellium. It's in a trine with all of these planets in the sign of Pisces. And again, Mars is weak in this condition. It's at its fall. We have a lot of really debilitated, weakened planets that are trying to do things. They're trying their best, but they're just unsupported. But there is a little bit of momentum that we're starting to feel here. So it is kind of like we want to start taking action on something, but we don't know the path. It's premature. And the things that we initiate under this particular new moon, the intentions that we seed under this particular new moon are subject to eclipse rules where we're not going to really know the outcome, not just because of the murkiness, but because we're going to be thrown some curveballs along the way. There is something that we can't see yet that is going to change course or change our direction. And we just have to wait for that to come up to really know what it is. It doesn't mean that you don't do anything, but it's going to be a slow start. Like this is not Mars is direct, so like let's launch all in like wildly to something. No, this is about like taking our time, thinking it through, just starting to set those little seeds, knowing kind of where our destination is, but not necessarily leaping all in just yet. And so that's kind of the biggest energy. Over these next couple of weeks, we're going to be having a lot of activations of the eclipses prior to actually coming into the eclipse season and that total lunar eclipse in Virgo on March 14th. And so like March 1st and 2nd, not only do we have Venus stationing on March 1st, but we have Mercury conjunct the North Node exact, which is going to be another eclipse activation that's coming close already at the time of this new moon. And then we're going to be having the eclipse season, and then we're going to be having like the sun hitting the North Node later in the month. Like there's like a lot of North Node energy in addition to these eclipses. And so this is where we really get to see where fate wants us to go in this new chapter with the nodes on this axis. And so that being said, let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs, beginning of course with Aries and Aries rising. And here we go. And before we do, I just want to mention, I do have a free Astrology 101 quick reference guide for you to download in the link in the description below, 100% free. It's going to help you to pick apart what we're talking about here in the forecast for all 12 signs in greater detail. And you always, of course, want to listen to your rising sign, your sun sign, and your moon sign. The rising sign is going to be the most predominant energy. Your sun sign is secondary, and your moon sign is important to listen to as well, although this energy is more internalized and subjective. All right, so let's get into it. For Aries and for Aries rising, this is a very introspective new moon. This is the time to really give yourself some space, not just in your schedule, but like literally space from other humans. Especially with Venus stationing on your ascendant, there's probably going to be a lot of social activity, and it's going to feel like there's a certain amount of intensity around your relationships over the course of this next week or so. Definitely watch the Venus retrograde forecast if you haven't done that next. But this is a time for you to turn inward. This is a time for solitude, contemplation, meditation. Like if you do nothing else around the time of this new moon on February 27th, take the time for 3 days before and 3 days after and the day of this new moon, take at least 20 minutes a day to just sit in quiet meditation and allow images, allow impressions, allow messages to come to you, because you're going to gain a lot from that. There is something really powerful that's about to transpire. There are some endings of big cycles in your life that are coming up right now that will lead to new beginnings. And it is necessary for you to embrace some alone time. And you might be thrust or thrown into a space of solitude that you're not necessarily planning for as a result of this new moon, as a result of the energies coming up throughout the next month. And that's going to be something that can be a little bit challenging. It might be, it might not feel good in the moment. However, it is something that's necessary. This space, this solitude, this place where you can kind of sit with yourself and create from that space, that is absolutely necessary, especially at the time of this new moon. This is a great time to set intentions for endings, for letting go of anything that's blocking your path and your new direction moving forward. And so that's what's going on for Aries. For Taurus and for Taurus rising, this new moon, this stellium in Pisces is happening in your 11th house, which is the house of friends, social networks, and groups of people that you surround yourself with by choice. There is going to be some high strangeness going on in your social circle over the course of the next week or so, really into the entire month of March. This is a time to set really solid intentions for what you want moving forward when it comes to your friendships, because your closest connections and your social circle in general is going to be expanding and contracting at the same time. You're going to be letting go of a lot of old connections, old friendships that no longer serving you. You've probably already been actually going through a little bit of a purge or a restriction in that area of your social circle where you only want those relationships that are very solid, that are very responsible, that are very dependable, the ones that are in it for the long haul. And you might be gathering a couple new friendships here and there, and those ones are going to be very solid and very long lasting. You're not looking for fair weather friends. You're not wanting a lot of acquaintances and like drinking buddies right now. This could also be where you need to stop actually like using substances within your social circle. And that's part of what's limiting your social circle in some way. And there are new connections coming in, and you're going to get a hint of that. It's not going to be full blown yet, but any new friendships, any new group connections that come in, not just around the time of this new moon, but really over the course of the next 18 months are going to be fated. They're going to be a part of a really important new path that you were moving into when it comes to your tribe and the type of people that you associate and surround yourself with. I love this new moon for setting intentions for group activities, for friendships, with the knowledge and understanding that you know what the end destination is. You don't know how you're going to get there. And also knowing that you can't control everything that's going on in your social circle right now. There is going to be some strangeness. There are going to be some occurrences that feel very intense, but you know that it's part of your path, and you know that you just kind of have to embrace what's going on right now in terms of that social disruption. And it's going to lead you to something. It's going to lead you to something better. It's going to lead you to those connections that you were meant to have in this lifetime. And so that's what's going on for Taurus. For Gemini and for Gemini rising, this new moon and stellium in the sign of Pisces is happening in your 10th house of career and public reputation. There is a lot going on here, a lot of murkiness, a lot of change that's afoot. There's been something going on for probably at least a couple years now that's been limiting or restricting or slowing things down for you when it comes to your work and causing you to have to work 10 times harder. And even if you're not somebody who's working right now, if you're retired or if you are like a stay-at-home parent or something like that, there's something going on here that's restricting or limiting your ability to make your mark on the world, or it's restricting or limiting the legacy that you leave behind. Or there's somebody in a position of power and authority that is maybe wielding that power and authority and having some sort of extra control over you right now. Whatever the case, this is a time where that discipline, that restriction, those lessons that you've been going through in the area of career are going to pay off, because what you have been refining, what you've been building, the boundaries that you've been creating and severing during this time are going to open things up for a brand new path that's more in alignment with your destiny. You're not fully there yet, and the path to get there, and even maybe the destination, is a little murky, but you know it's coming. And this new moon is the first taste of that, and it's the first chance for you to start seeding small intentions and making smaller moves to get to that destination. And that destination is going to increase your earning potential, especially like after this Mars retrograde, or this Mars direct, actually, I should say, is out of the shadow of retrograde. And so there's definitely good things to be had. But this is just the beginning. The things that are going on right now, they're not going to be super clear. There's not going to be like so much momentum that it's just going wild. It's just like you can tell change is coming, and it's stirring, and it's starting to formulate, and you're just at the precipice of it. And then for Cancer and for Cancer rising, this new moon, the stellium in your ninth house, or the stellium in Pisces, is happening in your ninth house, I should say. And this is great for you, Cancer. You've been kind of through the ringer with Mars going retrograde, back and forth over your sun, moon, or rising sign. And this stellium in Pisces is giving you some really good energy. It's throwing some trines your way, which means that you are supported in taking what you've been refining, what you've had to kind of go back and sever or redo or restart or reignite passions around. It's giving you some energy to take whatever that is and start it fresh, start it new, to set things in motion and to kind of stick with it for the long haul because of that Saturn energy. There's also potentially some sort of fated karmic synchronistic energy coming up around travel or travel plans, maybe not necessarily now, but into the future, where if you see those intentions now, if you follow those threads, the end result later on down the line, probably later on this year, I would say, either at the time of the eclipse, which is happening on March 14th, or probably the next eclipse season in the fall, it's going to manifest into something that is going to be really life-changing. So if there are opportunities for travel or connections to people in foreign countries that are starting to stir right now, even if it's not fully clear, it's a little murky, I would follow that thread because it's leading somewhere important. And then for Leo and for Leo rising, this new moon, the stellium in Pisces, is happening in your 8th house, which is the house of death, rebirth, psychological intensity. It's the house of fear. It's the house of fear that we hold on to as a result of old wounds, old traumas, things that have happened in the past that are still holding power and control over us in the present moment. And this could be a powerful time for you to work through and work on those psychological issues that are still carrying that weight. This would be a time where you might not make all the progress, but there's an inkling that you need to do something about this, and there's a new path that opens up for you for that healing. There's also an energy here of a new direction that you need to take potentially with your finances, especially debt, joint finances, inheritance, taxes, investments, things like that, where it's murky, like it's the journey, and I would say the destination might be a little murky right now, but you can tell that there are changes kind of starting to formulate. Now is the time to set intentions around slowly piecing that together and slowly moving into that new direction, because big changes in your finances are absolutely coming up, or in your partner's finances are absolutely coming up. But again, it's like you feel it, and it's like this like energy that's in the ethers, but you don't really know how to make that tangible or what that really means for you just yet. It'll become a little bit more clear at the total lunar eclipse on March 14th, and it'll really manifest at the end of this year in the fall. But definitely you need to start thinking about it and taking those steps around the time of this new moon. And then for Virgo and for Virgo rising, for Virgos, this new moon in Pisces, the stellium in Pisces, is happening in your 7th house, which is all about relationships. And you're going to have Venus retrograding back into your 7th house at the end of March too, with the Venus retrograde. And so this is a big, really important time for you to make some really important changes in your relationships, have those important conversations. There's boundaries that need to be lifted and new boundaries that need to be kind of put in place when it comes to your closest one-on-one connections, when it comes to contractual agreements, and when it comes to long-term romantic partnerships and marriages. So if you are somebody who's married, there could be a new direction or a new path that you need to take with each other and that you need to work on together in order to take your relationship to the next phase, the next place that you're supposed to be. Like, this is where you need to follow a new path, march the beat of a new drummer when it comes to your one-on-one connections, contracts, and relationships. And there could be some weirdness around contracts, I would say, coming up, not just at this new moon, but this month in general. If you, and that could mean a lot of things. I mean, we sign all sorts of contracts these days. So there could be a new contract that you enter into where the agreement is murky and uncertain and you don't really know exactly where it's leading, and that could cause some problems. So definitely, before you sign anything this month, you want to double, triple check. You want to get a lawyer to look it over. You want to really be clear on what's going on here. But there is a need to kind of sign on the dotted line and to move forward with something along those lines if that is applicable to you. This could also be a fated new relationship coming in. It could be like the beginning stages of it. I could see a lot of like Virgo people in particular who maybe meet someone or they hear of someone through a friend or something along those lines around the time of this new moon, but it doesn't really manifest into something important until either the total lunar eclipse on the 12th of March or even like as far as the end of the year this fall, like when we have the next eclipse season. And definitely I would highly recommend, if you are somebody who studies astrology and you're watching this and you're a Virgo rising, definitely check out my Relationships in Synastry mini course, 50% off right now, because you're going to want to do a deep dive into all of your closest connections this month and into the next, and really over the course of the next 18 months with these eclipses, because things are changing. You are going to have some very fated, very karmic, very interesting new connections coming in. And it's going to be like relationships are going to be your main focus. Like, this is less about what you want, and this is more about the needs of other people over these next few months here. And then for Libra and Libra rising, this new moon, this stellium in the sign of Pisces, is happening in your 6th house, which is the house of health, work, and daily routines. And so this energy, there's something going on here where there's a lot of activity when it comes to your work, or when it comes to your day-to-day routines, even if you're not somebody who's working. But work and work-related projects for a lot of people are going to become hectic, burdensome, murky, strange. They're going to take on a new life. They're going to take on a new meaning. They're going to feel very odd. You're going to have new karmic connections in the workplace, new employees if you're somebody who's in management or who owns a business even. And the threads that are being woven here are very karmic. So it feels really important, but it also feels kind of murky and uneasy. And like there's something weird going on here. And it's because there is, and you're not seeing everything quite so clearly. New projects that you start around the time of this new moon are going to take on a life of their own. Like, you really don't have control over their destiny and their trajectory, but there are like new things that you do need to get started with. This could also be new developments coming in involving health, involving your health or the health of somebody close to you, involving animals, involving acts of service and the way that you show up to help others. So there's a lot kind of up in the air here where it's like, things are changing in these areas. You need to do something new. You feel it kind of starting to form, but you don't know exactly what that means or what direction that's going to take just yet. And the outcome might be a little foggy even too, but you need to start moving in that direction and taking the first steps. And that's what this new moon is for. Things won't fully manifest or make sense until the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo on the 12th of March. And they won't really manifest all the way where you're going to see the results of this new moon until the next eclipse season in the fall. And that's when it will be less murky, much more clear what's going on. All right. And then for Scorpio rising, this new moon stellium in the sign of Pisces is happening in your 5th house. That's nice for Scorpio. There's a little grand trine forming here between this stellium of admittedly weakened planets in your 5th house and weakened Mars in your 9th house. However, it's better than not having a grand trine forming with your ascendant sun or moon, right? So This is a time for you to embrace new beginnings, embrace a new direction when it comes to the things that you're passionate about, when it comes to the things that you love, when it comes to your dreams, when it comes to your creativity, when it comes to your hobbies, your interests, the things that you do because you love to do them. There's something here that you need to embrace. It's like something brand new. It's like, I've been dreaming about this. I've been fantasizing about this. This is the thing that I want to embrace because I love it and it feels good to me, not for any other reason. And now's the time where you need to take those first steps to get there. The journey might be a little unclear. You don't know exactly what path you're going to be taking or where it's going to lead. And the outcome, even though you have a little bit of an idea, it might not be fully formed yet. However, you're compelled, you feel that fated pull that you need to start embracing this. You need to start moving this direction. This could also be fated karmic circumstances coming up around children if you have any, and you need to take a new path, or having new boundaries with your children, or even removing certain boundaries with your children as they grow older, removing certain rules and restrictions. And you're not really sure what that's going to bring, and it can feel uncertain and it can feel scary, but you know it's something that you need to start gently moving toward at the time of this new moon. And then for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. For Sagittarius, this new moon, this stellium in Pisces is happening in your 4th house, which is the house of home, family, property, and real estate. There is a lot of super karmic, super fated energy going on here that's pulling you into your home, in your family life. There is a brand new direction that you need to take, and you need to start slowly taking the first steps around the time of this new moon on February 27th. However, you're not going to fully understand where that's leading until, the total lunar eclipse on March 14th will bring something, but it's not going to fully show up in terms of like the clarity of like what this was leading you toward until the end of this year around the fall. And so this could mean like having to take the first steps to like find a new home, very literally, like start putting your feelers out there, start working with a real estate agent, start looking at listings, things like that. This could be, you starting to look at like, maybe where do you want to end up? Maybe you don't know exactly where you want to go, but you know that you need to leave. You know that you need to change something about your home environment, and you don't know how you're going to get there. You don't know exactly where it's going to be, but you do know that you need to start taking those initial steps. And there's like this fated, like synchronistic, very like interesting energy where the messages are just guiding you into it. I would say that there could be a need to address something or to take a new path when it comes to your family and family relationships as well. And that could be something that you're starting to work on around the time of this new moon on February 27th. And then for Capricorn and Capricorn rising, this new moon, this stellium in the sign of Pisces is happening in your 3rd house, which is the house of community. It's the house of your neighbors. It's the house of all of the day-to-day interactions that you have within your immediate environment. And those interactions are getting weird. You might have some very odd, very strange interactions as you're going to the grocery store, as you're talking to your neighbors. And there's a thread that's woven through all of these that is very fated, where it's leading you to think about things or talk about things or communicate with people in new ways, or to communicate with new people in your environment that you wouldn't otherwise have communicated with. And so this is leading you somewhere, but you don't know really exactly where just yet. This could also be having to initiate something or move in a new direction with your relationship with your siblings or extended family members, if that's applicable to you, where again, the journey's unclear, the destination is a little murky, but you know you need to start moving in that direction to either repair a relationship or form a new bond with someone. This could also be you needing to learn something new. It's kind of like it's coming up for you and you're like, I actually really need to embrace this and start learning about like this topic or that topic, or maybe taking a certification course of some kind. And you don't know really where that's going to lead, and maybe you don't want to go all in just yet, but you need to get started around the time of this new moon, because there's something important that this is going to create for you in the future. And then for Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this new moon, this stellium in your 2nd house is in the sign of Pisces in your 2nd house. This is all about money. Money feels weird, scary, murky, nebulous for you right now. There could have been a lot of hardships, limitations, restrictions. You've been working really, really hard for your resources or to save your resources. Often you'll see when people have Saturn transiting the second house that your money or your ability to spend freely is restricted, but it's not because you lose your job or you don't have money coming in. It's like you're saving for a big purchase, or you're having to, like, I don't know, like you just bought a house or something. Like there's something going on here where you are being responsible with your money to like pay off debts or to do something that is going to have long-term benefits, but there's like a delayed gratification situation going on. You're going to actually start to see the payoff pretty quickly as the North Node starts to transit your sign. It's going to feel scary at first, like there's fear and anxiety around not really knowing where things are headed financially. But if you're taking those initial steps right now, if you're following the messages, the signs, the synchronicities, the direction that your soul feels like it's leading you into when it comes to the way that you earn, spend, save, invest your money, if you're taking those small steps to move in that direction at the time of this new moon, by the time we get to the fall, you're going to really reap the rewards of that. And then for Pisces and for Pisces rising, this new moon, this crazy stellium is in your sign. Oh my goodness, Pisces, you probably feel quite overwhelmed. I mean, there's no easy way to put it. There's a lot on your shoulders. There's a lot on your plate. There's a lot of focus on you right now. And some of this is kind of heavy. I mean, Saturn's there, right? So there is, there's a new path that you're moving into. You've been going through this process of burning away and peeling away all the layers of the onion just to get to the center. Or like one of my teachers, Robert Phoenix, used to always describe these Saturn transits as if you had like a piece of fruit, like an orange, and you were squeezing out all the juice and harvesting all the juice, and you get to get all the rewards of all the hard work that you've put in over the course of the last 30 years. But then afterwards you have this rind that you don't need anymore. And like, what do you do with this? So you're kind of stripping away anything that is not that juice, anything that is not necessary in your life. And that's been a process for the past couple of years. And now you're going to finally start to feel that this is moving you in a new direction. Like all of that hard work, all of that self-discipline, all of the lessons that you've gone through are not for nothing. Like you are being launched headfirst into a brand new path. And this new path is going to be all about what you want, what you need, what you desire, what you deserve, what you need to be doing in order to embrace what you came here to accomplish in this lifetime. Like this is a new era for you. And that stripping away of all that excess is a big part of laying the foundation so that way you can move forward to embrace this new path. And this is the first time that you're starting to see where that is headed and how you can start to take the steps that you need to take in order to incorporate your passions, your gifts, the things that you really want to take with you moving forward. So this is about a change in your destiny, focusing less on what other people think, what other people want from you, what other people need, and focusing more on your needs and kind of rebuilding from that space of stripping away all the layers of who you used to be. So this is kind of a big one for you, Pisces. I would say you don't know exactly where you're going yet. You don't know exactly who you are yet even, but you're starting to get hints. You're starting to see those threads that are taking you there. So the path might be murky, but you still need to start taking those first steps, even though it's foggy, you can't quite see it clearly yet. And by the time we hit fall of this year, it's going to be very clear, like the rewards, the benefits, where you're going, the major upside down, topsy-turvy energy that's going to throw you in this new path, what this new path is actually going to mean for you. And so this is the first step. And so that is my forecast for all 12 signs. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked the video, like it, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends if you feel like they could benefit from any of the information I just shared with you today. And definitely check out my Relationships in Synastry mini course. It's 50% off right now for early bird enrollment. I will absolutely never offer it at this price again because there's so much packed into this course, but I wanted to give you basically what you need to navigate this Venus retrograde energy. And for some of you, this eclipse season too is hitting you pretty hard in different areas of relationships. So take advantage while it's here, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.